Hello, hello, hello. How's everybody doing today? Brother John Stewart on behalf of Lost Sheep Ministries, here to take y'all on another little walk with the word for the day. I do apologize. It's been a couple of days since I posted. Man, it's been busy, and I apologize. And I hate to leave you guys hanging, but I'm here tonight, so I'm going to bring you a good lesson, one that we all need to hear, something that me, myself, has been brought under conviction about several times. So I'm going to jump into this. So tonight I'm going to show you a lesson, a pretty neat lesson, pretty cool lesson, actually, out of 2 Kings chapter 8, verses 1 through 6. So in 2 Kings 8, the Lord tells us this. He says, "Then spake Elijah unto the woman whose son he had restored to life, saying, Arise, and go thou and thine household, and sojourn wheresoever thou canst sojourn. For the Lord have called for a famine, and it shall also come upon the land 7 years. And the woman arose, and did after the saying of the man of God. And she went with her household, and sojourned in the land of the Philistines 7 years. And it came to pass at the 7 years end that the woman returned out of the land of the Philistines, and went forth to cry unto the king for her house and for her land. And the king talked with Gehazi, the servant of the man of God, saying, Tell me, I pray thee, all the great things that Elijah hath done. And it came to pass, as he was telling the king how he had restored a dead body to life, that behold, the woman whose son he had restored to life cried to the king for her house and for her land. And Gehazi said, My lord, O king, this is the woman, and this is her son, of whom Elijah restored to life. And when the king asked the woman, she told him. So the king appointed unto her a certain officer, saying, Restore all that was hers, and all the fruits of the field, since the day that she left the land, even until now. Man, you talk about some perfect timing right there, boy. That is some perfect timing if you never heard of it. Matter of fact, it reminds me of this one line from one of my old favorite Jesus songs, where he said, you said I looked up, but I call it perfect timing. And that's exactly what she experienced, perfect timing. And the reason why she got that perfect timing, it was because the Lord was with her because of her faithfulness to one of his servants. So to fully grasp the situation, I want to give y'all a little background on this story. So years before this happened, Elisha used to travel through this town called Shunem. And it said in this town, this lady that we're talking about here in the story, she was a great lady. She was rich, and she had all these things, and she was able to recognize that Elisha was a man of God. And because of this, every time he came through, she took care of him. You know what I'm saying? She invited him into her house, and she fed him and things of that nature. And since he traveled through that area pretty regularly, what she did was she went to her husband and convinced her husband to set him up in a little apartment for him at their house. So every time he came through the area, he'd have somewhere to stay and study and do his work. So her husband eventually did that, and of course, Elijah was ecstatic about it. You know, he was very appreciative. So one day, he wanted to do something for her, because she had done so much for him. So he asked his servant for some ideas. You know what I'm saying? Because the lady had everything. Like I said, she was rich, she had everything, she was a great woman, she had status and all that stuff, but she didn't have a kid. She didn't have a kid. And see, that was a big deal back in the day for a woman not to have a kid. You know, I know where our society is at now, they reward women, they celebrate women for, you know what I'm saying, they would call her a bad bee because she had money and she had material things, you know what I'm saying, but she didn't have no kids. So they're like, oh, she's Miss Independent, she's a bad bee. They'll celebrate that. But you got to understand something, in the eyes of God, kids are a blessing. You know what I'm saying? Kids are a blessing. So in old culture, old Bible culture, you see there, it was a shame not to be able to have a kid. If you didn't have a kid, you can give your husband a son to inherit, you know what I'm saying, his the stuff behind him after he passed away, then that was a shame to you. So it was looked on, not having a kid back in the day was looked on as being cursed. So to help her out, since she helped him so much, Elijah decided to repay her by blessing her with a kid. You know what I'm saying? And he blessed her with a kid, and of course she loved the kid with all her heart, as a mother should do. You know what I'm saying? She was so happy because she never thought she'd get to have a kid, but you know, with God, everything is possible. So what ended up happening sometime later on, after the kid had grew up a little bit, he was hanging out with his dad one day, and he told his dad that he had a headache. So the dad sent him home to mama, of course, like we always do. Well, go to your mama. You know what I'm saying? But he sent him home to the mama, And unfortunately, when he got to the house, you know what I'm saying, he died. The kid died. So, of course, the woman was devastated because in her mind, she would have rather have never had a kid than to have one that died, because you can imagine how it was tore up. So she went to the man of God. She went back, she found Elisha. He wasn't with her at the time, so she went and found Elisha, and she went to him, and she was heartbroken. You know what I'm saying? And then short, through a series of events, Elisha ended up bringing the kid back to life. So that's the background. So that's what we're talking about. The story that Gehazi was telling the king as this woman walked up was that story. You see what I'm saying? So that's the background. Now, fast forward, the situation comes up where she has to abandon her land and her house, you know what I'm saying? And the moment she returns, hoping to just plead the king to be able to get a little bit of her land back, Elijah's servant is telling the king the exact story that happened. You know what I'm saying? He's telling the exact story of how he brought this lady kids to life, and the lady walk in. You see what I'm saying? And because the timing was so perfect, not only did he restore her land, he even paid her the money that was made off the land while she was gone. Man, that's awesome there. I mean, she couldn't have fathomed a better outcome than that. But it only worked out that way because it was on God's timing. You see, one of the harder aspects of being a Christian or a follower of God or a servant of God is being willing to be able to accept his timing. And I'm going to tell y'all something, man, that's rough, boy. Man, waiting on God's timing, it's rough. You know what I'm saying? That's one I still struggle with to this day. And it's so crazy because I have no problem with accepting his will and the crazy stuff that happens to me or will happen to me. I got no problem accepting that at all. You know what I'm saying? It's fine. You know, stuff's going to happen. But when it comes to God's timing, it gets me every time. Because God likes to make you wait for stuff. You know, you'll pray for something and it'll be something for his kingdom. And you'll pray for something and it'll happen, you know, eventually. You know, eventually it'll come true. And it gets so frustrating because you be like, man, I'm trying to do this thing for you. Why is it that you're making me wait so long to be able to get the thing that I need to make this happen? You know what I'm saying? And that's the reason why sometimes a lot of Christians, a lot of people fall out of the word. You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of times why they drop out of the word, because they get so impatient. Because I've been serving the Lord for over 20 years now, and my ministry is nowhere near where I thought it would be. You know what I'm saying? But I haven't stopped doing the work because I understand something. And it's something that we're going to all have to understand, you know what I'm saying, if we are going to serve the Lord or follow the Lord. And what we're going to have to understand is this: God sees time differently than we do. You know what I'm saying? So he's not worried about time the way we worry about time, because he knows exactly how much we got. We don't want to know how much time we got to get this thing done, but he knows. So when he puts something in motion, he takes time to set things up and to tear things down and to move obstacles around and to move people out of your way, so that when you get whatever it is that you need, you'll have it because it's laid down on a solid foundation. So that's why it's so important to just wait on the Lord and be patient. Because when you try to rush things, that's what gets you in a situation where you mess up. You know what I'm saying? That's what happened with Abraham and his Egyptian servant. You remember, if you go back in your Bible, the Lord promised Abraham that he was going to have a child. And he was supposed to have it with his wife, but his wife was old, he was getting older. So instead of him just waiting on his wife like he's supposed to, he hooked up with his Egyptian servant. So now, one of the biggest enemies of Judaism and Christianity has always been Islam. And guess what? That's the result, that Islam is a result of Abraham hooking up with his Egyptian girl. Because religious Islam and Muslim chased their lineage back to Ishmael, which is the son that Abraham had with the servant girl. So you see, that's what happened when you rush things. But then you got other guys like David, who was anointed king, told he was going to be king of Israel, and then 10, 15 years, he had to run for his life because Saul was trying to kill him the whole time. So he was anointed, but he didn't get the kingdom till 15 years later. But he got the kingdom because he was patient. Same with Joseph. Joseph was told in a dream that he was going to be over his brother one day, and he's going to be elevated, and then he had spent 20 years as a slave in Egypt before he got elevated. Same with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They knew the Lord can take them out of their fiery trial, but they had to go in the fire before Jesus showed up. He could have showed up before they went into the fire, the furnace, but he didn't, because it was about his timing to give him glory. You know what I'm saying? And because all these men stayed faithful and patient, they were also successful. So you have to stop trying to rush God the farther along your little plans, because he knows what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? Because he's a God, he's an on-time God. Yes, he may not be there when you want him, but he'll be there right on time. And that has been your little walk with the word for the day. I love y'all. Peace.